Hello gamers and welcome to another exciting edition of Game Up. I'm Elwood.
I'm Kim.
And this is our review of Abzu. Abzu is an adventure video game developed by Giant Squid Studios and published by 505 Games. This game was released way back in 2016 now, which seems like a while ago, but it's obviously not that long. Now, for anyone who obviously played Journey, this game is probably going to seem really quite similar, and that's a lot down to the fact that it features director Matt Nava and composer Austin Wintory, who both worked on Journey. And here the setting is obviously moved from desert to ocean, as you play a female diver who sets off on a spiritual quest of sorts to restore life and peace to the oceans, with some very... But yeah, as with Journey, this is a very visual-driven journey, and I'm really curious to know what you made of this game, because I know you obviously have found a Journey, and obviously Abzu is sort of like the underwater version in many ways. But what did you think of Abzu? What's your opening thoughts?
Yeah, I like Abzu a lot. I really like the idea. I've never been a big fan of anything underwater, mostly because the underwater controls are always a little finicky and odd. And
Yeah.
I think the same applies to this one, where like you start the game and it's automatically inverted, and you know, I'm stubborn, so I like to play the game the way it's set up, so I didn't go and change it. So yeah, it was really but it's nice. It's like a relaxing atmospheric adventure. It has a story, but there is no actual narration in it. But you know, like as you explore the ocean, you can explore farther into different places, and you can really be detailed, and there's a lot of achievements you can get. And in certain ways, I guess there's a little bit more achievements to be had in Abzu than in terms of like boosting the exploration aspect more than say like Journey. Journey was a really like straightforward adventure. You kind of went through an area and you kind of like unlocked what you needed to do in order to move to the next area. Obviously, like for both of these, because of, you know, the art, I think it was the art director and the music, both come from Journey and Flower. Like both of these games are super atmospheric, and their scores and stuff are just so beautiful and just so, I guess it's so like it makes the game so engaging to play in. And Abzu definitely has the same style, and even some sequences are very like comparable to Journey, especially the moments where you go into those drifts, like those streams. How do you call them? The like when you get pushed through the streams of water.
The currents.
Yeah, the currents. Yeah, that's it. Lost my word there. Yeah, so as you go through the currents and you have to go through these things, Journey has similar moments like that, and those are really like the moments that are a lot more fun and a lot more high speed kind of thing in a certain way. And, you know, Journey had that same thing where they were doing that sliding down the desert and stuff. So, well, I don't want to spoil too much of it. I don't want to compare too much to Journey directly, since I know that you haven't played it yet, and I don't want to, like, you know, ruin the experience for you, because it is one that I hope that you will enjoy also. But, I mean, as someone who's just, like, walking into something like this, because I think you haven't played Journey or Flower, like, what did you think about Abzu?
I really liked Abzu. Abzu is an experience really unlike anything else that I've been playing, well, at all recently. This is a really sort of hypnotic and meditative sort of game, and there is no action, there's no real danger in this, and there's no real puzzles to sort of you're basically following a path. I mean, towards the end there are a couple of switch puzzles to solve, and there's a couple of sections where there's some sort of, you have to do some sort of skillful maneuvering, but there's never any sort of real sense of danger. I mean, the game hints that you're in danger in a couple of places, but a lot of the time it's just about the sheer joy of movement and exploration that this game focuses on. You're given different areas to explore, and you can find different sort of points that will restore fish to particular areas of the areas that you're into, and there's just a real sort of joy in just like swimming around in the ocean. I mean, it's weird to say, but just the simple like maneuvering, sort of like, oh, if I move the stick in this direction, the character does this movement, and when you're like going into an area and you just like dive deep and you're going down into the darkness and you're not sure what's down there, and when you sort of hit the bottom and you but there's just this real simple joy in exploration. As I said, it's not a game that's relying on big sort of exciting set pieces or sort of action or sort of intense sort of puzzle solving. It's just a straightforward sort of game. And I mean, you could give this game to anyone and they would be able to play it. Despite that, it was just a sheer simplicity of it, which is at the same time where the joy of it came. And it was nice as you move through the different sort of ocean settings. You start off in sort of like, I don't know, sort of like Mediterranean Ocean, and then you go through different sort of oceans. You go into like the depths of the ocean. You sort of encounter like giant squid and giant whales, and you see whale sharks, and you see all these fantastic sea life, and they're so beautifully animated. And it's just yourself. You don't have any other characters to interact with other than various fish and
the little
sea life
robots that we have, yeah, the little robot.
You do get your little robot drones, which are kind of cool to see, and certainly when you're swimming along and they swim in unison with you, and they got the trails coming behind you, it's just so pretty to look at, and you find yourself just finding simple joy in like, oh, I can like hold on to like a manta ray and I can swim, and different fish and mammals have like different abilities. Like, so I think it's like there's a school of dolphins that you can swim on, and you can actually leap them out of the water if you swim up. And there's all these little fun little tricks that you can do within the game. Or as I said, you can just keep going swimming forward. You can keep moving on to the next ocean. And I love the fact that the game was never sort of predictable in that response. I wasn't sure what I was going into. I was just sort of like blindly going forward and just taking each bit as it was sort of revealed to me.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. Like, I think, like, for us particularly, we've gone through a bunch of, like, a string of really, like, stressful games, you know, whether it was stealthy stuff and, like, running for your life, like We Happy Few, or, like, gun-toting, I don't know, ledge swinging Remember Me. to something like this. It's really something that, you know, it's a joyful thing to kind of like cut through all of the crazy in the games. It's definitely not for like a hardcore gamer for one. Like, it is for, you know, more of a casual gamer. It's really relaxing. It's really like, and it's really atmospheric. There's a little bit of a story to it. I don't think like this, like in terms of story, it's probably not as strong as say like what it's like a similar like say Journey or something like that. But I think the joy in this is that there's so much layers to it, and even if you like say, I think that you really brought up a good point in the sense that anyone can play it, and you can actually play it with kids. And when you sit on say a meditation rock, you can flip through the different sea life underwater, and your kids can learn about things, or even you can learn about little things about just like the ocean and like the creatures that are in it, the different types of fish, and whether it's tropical and stuff like that, and different types of sharks. And a lot of these sea life that they use are actually like, yeah, there are some that are, you know, the tropical ones are a little bit more known, you know, like the Dory ones and all that. But then, you know, you have like some of these creatures that I've never seen before. And I think there's like a real joy in just exploring and like just, you know, it's so relaxing and it's so atmospheric that I think they've done a really good job in that. Yeah, there are a bit of danger, and it's kind of like it kind of meshes with how the story goes a little, but it's never like, you know, you never really die in this pretty much.
No, I think there's only one section where you can sort of die with these sort of electric pyramid things. It's very abstract.
It's
the
like a
actual enemy thing.
electromagnetic shock of sorts, or like bombs or mines or something like that. I don't know what
Mm,
you call it.
I don't know, but yeah, I found myself. It was so trippy because sort of like you spend all this time underwater. I mean, you start above the ocean and you dive down into the ocean and you start exploring, and you get about I don't know about three-quarters of the way in the game, and you're given the opportunity to go onto land, and it was so strange. It was sort of like I've been underwater all this time, and now I'm coming up onto land. I felt the same as the diver did, and it was such a weird experience how connected to this character I was. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've got no personality, so to speak. All I've got is just these divers sort of actions, which is basically just swimming around and finding things.
Yeah.
There's no real sort of like character sort of development apart from a couple of scenes where she interacts with this great white shark, which appears throughout the story. And when it's initially introduced, it's shown to destroy one of the drones. Then we encounter it a bit later, and she rescues it from where it's been trapped. And you see this bond between the diver and this shark, and um, it's kind of pretty to see. And obviously, you go on this journey. I mean, these characters, there's no dialogue, as I said. It's just simple character movements and interactions that you're watching, and it's all sort of boosted by this wonderful soundtrack that plays. It never feels. I mean, the soundtrack, as I said, is composed by Austin Wintory, and it never feels like, oh, I'm in this scene, so this is this particular music. It feels like one continuous piece of music, and it's soundtracking your movements throughout the game, but it never feels like, oh, I've got to rush forward because the music's going to end. It just always feels to be like working in conjunction with the
Mm-hmm.
game you're choosing to play. So even if you're taking forever to explore, or if you're just rushing through, it never seems to lose sync with what's happening on the screen, which I think is a really impressive trick,
Yeah.
especially for an independent title like this. I mean, this is, as I said, just a little independent game. It's not like a big studio AAA title. I suppose if it was a AAA title, it would be a completely different game that we'd be talking about now. It would be like sort of like a Michael Bay experience of explosions and swearing and busty caricatures and stuff, and uh,
I,
it'd be, as I said,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it wouldn't. I think like Abzu is about an hour and a half experience, maybe 2 hours if you really do a lot of exploring, I guess. And I mean, I think it's this compact experience along with like I think what it is that there's a lot of subconsciousness that goes into it. It's a nice mesh of like using music and using the ocean and just the exploration that really kind of mesmerizes you and really like draws in all the elements that you kind of, and that's how you really connect with your character. And it's a really similar experience to like playing Journey. How like focused you become with this character who's just like swimming through this and kind of like aimlessly. It feels like there's not really much of a goal. You just keep moving forward and just kind of like, well, what am I doing here? You know, is there an end to what's happening at the beginning? Like, that's what you start thinking. But somehow, like, as the journey goes along, you really don't. It's really just an adventure. And it's so fun to be in that sort of adventure where you're kind of like you go into these little portals and you unlock things, and then there's this like beautiful imagery that shows up, and you see, and you're just restoring life in this ocean, and you wonder like what the end game is the whole time, and as you get to the end, you kind of have a nice moment of where the story gives you like we said, it goes on land, and you kind of have this twist as to who this female diver is, and and just like just a very abstract idea of just who she is, and kind of like an abstract idea of the story, but it's never like it feels like it's just enough to for this game.
did you have a favorite ocean at all? Because obviously you go through many different sort of oceans. I think you pretty much cover every sort of aspect of ocean life that you could. I mean, you're going from tropics to sort of the depths of the ocean. You're even going to like some Jurassic oceans, which is what I really loved. I mean, I loved all the temple work
Yeah.
that you encounter, and I really liked the Jurassic Ocean that you randomly stumble in, and you see like a plesiosaur,
Yeah.
and I was like, there's just some simple joy in the fact I'm swimming with a plesiosaur, or just that, or when I would like so that you'd hit the point and you release all the fish into an area, and you see it like feel like you're in the aquarium. The fact you're just sitting there on a rock, watching these fish swim around,
Yeah.
and the simple joy in that. I mean, the fact, as you said, it's got a meditation mode.
Yeah.
I can't think of a AAA title that is going to give you a meditation mode, just so you can sit there and watch fish. I mean, no one's rushing you in this game. If you want to sit and ponder over fish for a couple of hours, you can do that if you want. I mean, there's no rush at all to get to where you're going, and as I said, it's just these simple little moments that really sort of made it for myself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you talk about oceans, I have to say, yeah, the swimming with the dinosaurs is a good idea. Is like definitely one of my favorites. But I think like when we made the transition to like land and we had that kind of like underwater city part, that part I thought was really nice. Like there was a little puzzle to it, so there was a little bit more depth also. And there's like, and even if you look above the water, it's super beautiful. It's just so colorful, and it's such a nice contrast to like all the underwater, that there's like this haze that's underwater the whole time that we're there. And I really like that. I think that's probably my favorite part. So what would you rate Abzu?
For myself, this is a 4 out of 5. The reason I'm not rating a full 5 is that by the time I got to like the third quarter, it reached a point where it was kind of becoming a little tedious, and that we felt that we had an ending. And then it was all like, no, wait, we're gonna keep going for a bit longer. And it was like, no, I'm done at this point. And I felt myself at that point where I felt it had gone past its logical conclusion, sort of rushing to just get it done at that point. I was happy with the conclusion ultimately, but as I said, it just kind of felt like it outstayed its welcome. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of took away from the journey I've been on up until that point, where it's sort of like, it just felt like as I said, we felt we reached a logical ending, and then it just decided to keep going for whatever reason. It was like, apart from that, I can't really fault any sort of aspects of the game. I mean, I really enjoyed the journey, and I really enjoyed the movement and just the construction of this game. I thought it was really beautiful and really nice. So
I get where you're coming from. I'm actually exactly at the same spot, and it's been a while. Yeah, so 4 out of 5 for me also. Yeah, I mean, my main issue was that I felt the controls were a little bit loose, but I think it had to do with the underwater element. A lot of underwater games always have that kind of like controls, which, you know, you press a little too much and then you start doing black flips for 5 seconds, you know. But that's probably more of a personal problem. But I do agree with you that I felt like the game kind of overstayed its welcome a little at a certain point. I felt like maybe it could have cut back like 1 or 2 oceans, and it might have achieved a little bit more. I'm not sure where it is, but I'm not exactly, I can't really pinpoint where I find there's an issue, but it definitely felt like the tedious thing was definitely there also for me. It hit me at a certain point as well. So this wraps up this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Head over to our home base, thatmomentin.com, to read gaming reviews. To get gaming news every single day, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at Game Warp Podcast. You can check out our gaming obsessions over at Instagram, instagram.com/GameWarpPodcast. And whenever we stream, you can check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/GameWarpPodcast. Till next time, bye!